The colonel laughed at a little black girl's request to use the shooting range, but what happened next will leave you speechless. Laughter echoed through the officers' club at Fort Braxton Military Base, like the crack of a cannon, causing crystal goblets to rattle on mahogany tables. "Are you serious, girl?" Colonel Marcus Steele leaned forward in his leather armchair, his blue eyes sparkling with cruel amusement, as he watched the 12-year-old girl standing alone before his desk, surrounded by a dozen senior officers. Maya Johnson maintained the perfect military posture her father had taught her, her small fists clenched at her sides, holding tightly to a yellowed envelope. Her father's Medal of Honor, Sergeant David Johnson, hung silently on her skinny chest, a painful reminder of why she was standing there in that humiliating moment, facing men who looked at her as if she were an unwanted insect. "Sir, I would like to request permission to use the firing range today," Maya repeated in a steady voice, though her hands trembled imperceptibly. "It's the 3rd anniversary of my father's death in combat, and I wanted to honor him by practicing shooting as he taught me before he left for his last mission." Can you believe what happened when this brave girl stood her ground? Stay tuned to Black Voices to find out. Steele burst out, laughing even louder, slamming his hand on the table so hard that the other officers' whiskey glasses swayed dangerously. "Did you hear that? The girl thinks she knows how to shoot. What's next? She'll want to fly our fighter jets, too." The other officers around them began to laugh as well, some whispering poisonous comments that Maya pretended not to hear. "Children should be playing with dolls," muttered Major Thompson. "Little girls belong in school, not messing around with guns," added Captain Williams, causing a new wave of cruel laughter. What Colonel Steele didn't know, and Maya kept as her most precious secret, was that David Johnson had not been an ordinary soldier. For 6 consecutive years, every afternoon after school, every Saturday and Sunday afternoon, Maya had trained tirelessly with a man who secretly held the unofficial record for best marksman on the base. Records that were whispered only among the most experienced soldiers, but never officially recognized. 3 years ago, when the tears were still fresh and the pain of loss pierced her chest like a hot knife, Maya had made a whispered promise at the grave covered by the American flag, a promise that no one else had heard, but one she carried like a burning flame inside her heart, fueling every day of secret training she had undertaken since then. What's coming next will shock you. A 12-year-old girl is about to turn humiliation into history. Keep watching Black Voices to see how it unfolds. "Listen here, girl," Steele said, standing up and walking around the table with deliberately intimidating steps, his imposing figure casting a shadow over Maya. "This is no place for children to play soldier. Guns are not toys, and our shooting range is not a playground. Go home, watch some cartoons, and let the adults take care of serious matters." The humiliation burned Maya's cheeks like hot iron. But she took a deep breath, feeling something familiar grow inside her. Not pure anger, but something much more powerful and controlled. The same icy calm her father had taught her to cultivate when the world tried to diminish her. When teachers doubted her intelligence, when classmates mocked her determination. "With all due respect, sir," she replied, her voice carrying a strange serenity that made some of the officers stop laughing momentarily. "I have all the necessary documentation, proper supervision approved by the Military Family Affairs Department, and the security requirements have been met. My request is within base regulations." Major Peterson, sitting to Steele's right, nearly choked on his whiskey. "The little girl knows the regulations. How cute." More laughter echoed through the room, but this time some of the officers seemed slightly uncomfortable with the cruelty of the moment. It was then that Maya's eyes met Steele's for the first time with full intensity, and something in that gaze made his arrogant smile falter for a split second. There was something there, a quiet determination, a contained strength that seemed too big to fit in the body of a 12-year-old. It was the same look that war veterans carried, a serenity that only exists in those who have faced much worse storms and lived to tell the story. Steele shook his head with theatrical disdain. "Stubborn little girl. Very well. Since you insist so much, how about we do a little test? If you can hit at least 3 out of 10 targets at 50 meters, I'll personally sign your authorization. But when you fail miserably, I want you to promise never to bother important men with these childish fantasies again." Maya felt something ignite inside her chest, but she kept her face impassive. "I accept your proposal, sir." There, in front of all the looks of contempt and mockery, she stood firm like someone guarding a secret too powerful to be revealed before the right time. What those men didn't know was that Maya Johnson wasn't there just to honor her father. She was there to fulfill a promise that would turn the most painful humiliation of her life into the most epic demonstration that military base would ever witness. If this story of courage and determination is touching your heart, get ready to discover how a simple 12-year-old little girl was about to rewrite the record books and humiliate some of the most arrogant military men the U.S. Army has ever produced. Subscribe to Black Voices for more stories of triumph. Steele's predatory smile widened like a shark that smells blood in the water. Perfect. Let everyone witness this lesson in knowing your place. He gestured theatrically to the other officers. Gentlemen, let's head to the firing range and watch a child learn about reality. Major Thompson stood up, rubbing his hands together with cruel anticipation. This is going to be better than a movie. The little girl will run out crying before she can even hold the gun. The other officers laughed like hyenas, already imagining the public humiliation that was to come. As they walked through the corridors of the base, Maya kept a few steps behind the group, listening to every poisonous comment they made without bothering to lower their voices. "I bet she'll faint at the first shot," whispered Captain Williams. "Or she'll start crying for her mommy." What none of them knew was that Maya had been to that same firing range hundreds of times. For 3 years since her father's death, she had secretly come every Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m., when the base was still asleep. The maintenance soldier, a war veteran who had served with David Johnson, would quietly open the gate for her, an unspoken agreement between people who understood the true meaning of honoring the dead. Arriving at the firing range, Steele pointed to a table where several standard-issue weapons lay. "Pick your tool of humiliation, little girl. I recommend the lightest one. Maybe you'll at least be able to hold it without dropping it." Maya walked to the table with the same calm she had shown in the officers' club. Her fingers ran over the available weapons before settling on a Glock 19 pistol. The exact same model her father had used to teach her the basics of shooting when she was only 7 years old. "Interesting choice," Steele commented with feigned interest. "At least you have good taste in failing with style." More laughter echoed through the group, but some soldiers who had gathered to watch the show seemed less convinced of the amusement. Sergeant Rodriguez, the base's shooting instructor, approached with an uncomfortable expression. He had served with David Johnson and knew the man's legendary reputation. "Colonel, perhaps we should consider additional supervision for the minor." "Nonsense," Steele cut him off abruptly. "The girl wants to play soldier, so let her learn like real soldiers. No coddling, no hand-holding." His voice carried a cruelty that made even some of his own subordinates frown. Maya checked her weapon with such fluid, professional movements that Rodriguez blinked twice. She ejected the magazine, checked the chamber, tested the trigger. Every movement executed with the automatic precision of someone who had performed that routine thousands of times. Well, Steele murmured, his amusement growing. "Looks like Daddy taught you a few basic tricks before, before he wasn't around to protect you anymore." The cruel comment about David's death made Maya's blood boil, but she kept her expression impassive. Then, something unexpected happened. Maya closed her eyes for a few seconds, and when she reopened them, everyone present could see a subtle but profound transformation. The nervous 12-year-old girl had disappeared, replaced by something much more focused and dangerous. "Ready when you are," Maya said, her voice carrying an icy confidence that made some of the veterans present look at each other with recognition. It was the same tone experienced soldiers used moments before carrying out impossible missions. Steele positioned himself behind her with his arms crossed, surrounded by his officers who whispered bets on how many shots she would miss. "All right, little girl. 10 shots. Target 50 meters away. Remember, you only need to hit 3 to win our little agreement. It should be easy for someone with your family training." What those arrogant men didn't know was that David Johnson hadn't just been a good marksman. He had been the unofficial instructor for the best snipers on the base, the man other soldiers turned to when they needed to improve their skills for life and death missions. And Maya had absorbed every lesson, every technique, every secret he had learned in 2 decades of military service. More importantly, they didn't know about the 4,847 hours Maya had spent training over the past 3 years. Every Saturday morning, every holiday, every free